All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to show you guys how I got into really great shape and what was the 90-day split that I did to take me from getting average freaking results to like freaking fantastic results where you're like, what the fuck? All right, so what I'm going to show you guys, right, is a 90-day lock-in, the athletic stretch split. You do this for 12 weeks, your physique is noticeably going to be better. It's going to be much more, apparent. You're going to be having a more dominant frame, more intimidating. That's the whole point of this, right? Because a lot of times people are going for like mass, and they're pushing all the weight, which is great. But if you don't have those shoulders, right? If you don't have those shoulders, if you don't have the traps, if you don't have the lats, you're not going to be that as intimidating. I mean, maybe you're strong, and you're still going to have strength regardless, but we'll get into it. So the 90-day split is built up of 4 phases, right? We have the foundation, the overload, intensify, and peak. Now, this is the exact split I did, so you guys can follow it to the T, you can take some notes, grab pen and paper, or at the very end, I have a little tracker for you guys if you guys want to take a screenshot and really just dial in. Because if you guys really dial in and put in the work, you guys will get the results, right? Doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work, it'll become true. All right, so let's get into it. So this is my transformation, okay? Now, to the naked eye, you'll be like, well, there's not that much transformation. Understand, most people don't have the complete concept of like how much fat you actually have on your body, right? So in my eyes, I thought maybe 6 weeks, blah blah blah, and so the whole point of this is to preserve as much muscle as possible. Now I could get lean super fast. I can get lean in like 8 weeks, maybe 8 weeks I can get pretty freaking lean, or maybe 6 to 8 weeks I can get pretty lean. I can get pretty fucking chiseled, but that will require me losing a lot of muscle. And if I lose a lot of muscle, then I'm not going to be as intimidating. I'm not going to be as dominant. I'm not going to be a freaking aggressive as man. I like to walk around through the buildings and through these places, and it look like I'm about to whoop some ass. That's how I just fucking like to move, right? So if I shrink down and I lose all that muscle, I lose all that mass, then I'm no longer as aggressive. And I like to be aggressive. I like to be powerful, dominant. I like to portray myself exactly how I feel inside, and I feel like I'm fucking taking over the world, and that's what I'm gonna do, right? So I want to look that way, right? So if you want to look the way, you will do the correct transformation, and you will do the proper techniques to make sure that you preserve as much muscle as possible, so that way you can be as dominant as possible. I don't know how else to say it, guys. If you guys want to, be a little skinny little twig, by all means, run, Forrest, run, Forrest, run. Ready? So before you see on the left, you see how I look. I'm freaking looking fantastic. Great, right? Then after, we have that. Now, the 4 weeks, the 4 phases are comprised of 12 weeks, one direction, okay? So foundation is where we figure out the technique, the baseline volume, and every set in a 3 RIR, which is reps in reserve. Learn your working weights. Now, this is very important because without a proper foundation, you're not going to be able to progressively overload and actually become to develop the muscles and build the muscle to the peak and the strongest you can be, right? So phase 2, we have overload, which is where the progressive overload is the only goal. See what I'm saying? Beat the last week, every session, 1 or 2 reps in the reserve. Because we're slowly getting stronger and stronger and stronger, but we have to find out what is our base and how we got to this point to get to the next level, right? Number 3, phase 3, that's when we have the intensify phase, right? This is where volume drops by 50%, but the load increase, right? 3-second centrics, 1 reps in the reserves on compounds, you see? So if you're thinking like, oh, because I'm going aesthetic, I'm going to be just doing volume, completely wrong. Because as we diminish in our calories, we have to understand that in order to preserve as much muscles, we have to use them. We have to push heavy weight so that our mind tells us we need to create more muscle. Because you guys understand how we create muscle is because we're putting all this pressure, putting all this weight against ourselves, and because our mind is like, well, I need more muscle, so next time he goes and he lifts up that weight, that he can push that weight. So as we're decreasing in calories, it's much better for us to understand like, oh, I need to lift even heavier. That way we can preserve as much muscle as possible, as well as keeping that protein up, right? So then phase 4 is where we peak and deload. Now, this is going to be the heaviest of the entire 90s. Because you have to understand, like I said, you are going to have to push very, very, very hard. Very, very hard, so that way you can reserve as much muscle as possible and keep that momentum. Now, day 6 day. So it's a 6-day weekly structure, right? You get 1 day off. I know people are saying, like, you need a couple days off, yada, yada, yada. It's complete BS. And I'll tell you why. Most people are not pushing that hard. That's just the truth of the matter. Most people are not pushing that hard. Most people are not going to push themselves to a limit where they need that much rest, okay? But the way we structure it is that you do have rest. So if you realize you see delts, upper chest, abs, and then his back, and then his legs, then chest, lats, legs. So you're going to have 2 days rest in between all these sets. So for you to be like, oh, I need to rest, you already rest your muscle for fucking 2 days. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, what are you talking about? You need 2 rest days. Like, you get what I'm saying? So it makes no sense. Not to mention when you take the Sunday off, now you have 3 days rest before you go and hit it back up. So take that nonsense out of your mind. People who tell you need rest probably don't have the physique that you probably want to get. I'm just making it that simple. Look at this. And I'm about to go on I'm on another 90-day sprint, another 12-week program, so I can get even leaner and even more jacked than this, right? So don't listen to those people. Don't listen to those people. I mean, but you can do whatever you wish, right? You can choose to take the methodology that got me here, or you can choose not to, right? You can choose wherever the other person's doing. I'm not going to twist your arm and make you do anything you don't want to do. You can do whatever you want to do. You're a human being. You're an adult. You can do whatever you wish, right? You can be like, I don't listen to this guy. This guy is jacked, but he's not jacked. Whatever, bro. You can do whatever you wish. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's your choice, your decision. I'm not the one who's going to work out. I already work out my own, so whatever. So these are the rules that drive the results, right? If you're not tracking, you're guessing, right? Double progression. Stay in the rep range. When you hit the top of the range for all sets, add the weight. So normal rule of thumb is 2.5 to 5 pounds. Once you hit that top weight and you're like, oh, this is too fucking easy, 5 pounds, right? Because after a while, you'll realize, after 5, you ain't that strong, buddy. You ain't that strong, right? But next one, you want to log every session. You want to make sure that you log on the session because you want to see where you're progressing, if you're progressively overloading, and you can put a little bit more weight onto that foundation, right? Then, all right, so rep PR first and then load, right? Get the reps in before you add load. If you are at 8, don't say, oh, I'm going to add another 5 pounds. You're not going to go and say, oh, I'm at 7, so I'm going to add another 5 pounds. Get to your 10, 12, wherever the freaking rep range is, and then you can add 5. Once you max that rep range, and you're like, oh, this is too easy, then we add weight. You don't start to add weight just because you're like, oh, this is light at 7. No, we're going to 12. We're going to 15. You want to make sure that you emphasize and you maximize that rep range before you add weight. All right? Now, the reps and reserves phases, right? There's different reps in reserve for different phases. So phase 1 will leave 3 reps in the reserve. Phase 2 will leave 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Phase 3 is 0 to 1. And what that means is that as we're going into the phases, we're going to be pushing even harder and harder and harder. Like I told you before, as you decrease in calories, you're going to have to push even harder so that your muscle has to retain. You have to retain as much muscle as possible. Okay. Now the cardio structure is not optional. Okay. Cardio is an absolute must. I don't like it. You don't like it. We all don't like it, but we have to do it, right? Typically, what they say is that if it is something that's going to make you better and you don't want to do it, you probably should do it, right? And it's probably cardio. But weeks 1 to 3, you can see the cardio ranges, right? It's going to be steady state, low intensity bike. You're going to be really keeping it slow, keeping the movement, just getting the cardio in. Because after we do our cardio, your body continues to burn fat for another 24 hours. So it's very important that we do our cardio. We get that thermogenic process, keeping it going, okay? Weeks 4 to 6 is when we increase the cardio just a little bit, right? And this is where we do an incline walk. We might do a little jog. I'm not really that keen on jogging, but because I have a torn meniscus, so I don't really have all that time to be jogging. Here and there I might jog, but for me, I love a nice little incline walk. Keep it cool, keep it low, because as we're doing all this intensity in the workouts, you also are going to be super sore. So do as you wish, but I'm telling you, there's a method to the madness. There's a reason why we're doing these slow cardios, right? Because you don't want to be deteriorating muscle, because the more cardio you do, the more it has to recruit energy. And if it cannot recruit energy, especially if you're in a fasted state, if it cannot recruit the carb sources, it's going to tap into muscle. It's much easier to tap into muscle than it is to go into that fat cells. That's why we do a slow, steady cardio state, so we can tap into the fat cells. So that way, so think about someone who jogs will use more of his fat, and someone who sprints, it needs immediate freaking energy. And the easy way to get energy is that pull that from the muscle, right? So weeks 10, 11, that's when we increase the cardio, because it's going to get a little bit difficult for you to lose the weight as we're increasing in the phases. So we're going to have to increase the cardio, right? Incline walk, high incline, a little bit faster pace, because it gets a little bit more stubborn. That's why we have the term stubborn fat, right? Week 12, and then we're going to deload. And what that means by deload, we're going to slow it back down, right? So instead of doing 45 minutes, we're going to do 25 minutes, right? And then 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 15 minutes, right? Easy walk, zone 1, 2. Keeping it slow, keeping it nice, keeping it very calm and easy on the body. Because now you're going to be at a freaking probably a low, you're going to be still at a low calorie caloric deficit, but we don't want to burn too much, right? Because we want to preserve as much muscle as possible. Now, phase 1, these are the workouts that I recommend you do, right? I have every single, from day 1 to day 6. Like I said, in phase 1, you must end every set at 3 RIR, which is reps and reserves. You're not chasing failure, okay? You're just building the foundation. You're understanding where you are right now, and then we're going to stack on in the next phases, okay? So if you want, take a screenshot of these workouts. You can take a screenshot, and you can lock them down. You can write them down, whatever you got to do, right? Like I told you before, day 1, we're going to focusing on the delts, the upper chest, the abs, right? The delts, upper chest to get that more of that stronger top frame. And then day 2, we got the lats, mid, back, and rear delts. Day 3, legs. Legs is priority. Legs is one of the biggest muscles in your body, which is producing the most testosterone in your body, right? So if we want to be a man, we must utilize as much testosterone as possible and produce as much testosterone as possible, okay? Day 4, upper arms and upper chest. Day 5, lats and rear delts. And day 6, legs, posterior chain, glutes, calves. And you can see the workouts for each individual day. You do as that. You get the foundations. You understand where you are. You understand where you're going to need to be at so you can get that 3 RIR. Now, when you go to the phase 2 and phase 3, this is where the program escalates, right? Now, the volume, the load, and the intensity shifts up every phase, right? It's by design. So, remember, phase 2 is an overload. That's where one set on all key compound lifts, you got to beat every weight that you had in week 1. This is why it's important to track the weights. That way you can know where you are progressively overloading and where you are, so you can add the weight and you can increase over time. Because we don't want to get weaker, okay? 1 and 2 are on the working sets. Log shows you being last week every session. I already said this nonsense, right? Because this is what I do. Like this stuff, sometimes I speak before the freaking presentation. It happens, okay? So phase 3, that's where we intensify. Isolation volume drops down 50%. Compound loads go up because we are going to push to our fucking limits, right? We want to recruit all the muscle fibers as possible. That way we retain as much fiber muscles as possible, right? We're going to do 0 to 1 RIR. We are going to failure. And then you're going to understand what failure is by week 3, by week 7 to 9, you're going to understand what working out is. You're going to understand what real pain is. You're going to understand what really pushing yourself to the limit is. If you do this correctly, right? If you follow the guidelines, if you follow the instructions that I have laid in front of you, you will understand this. Now, week 4, this is when we're deloading, right? Week 10, 11 are the hardest. It's going to be the hardest of your life. I swear, it's almost funny because, like I said, I talk a little bit before this thing, right? But week 10 and 11 are the hardest of your life in the gym. But week 12, that's where we recover. That's where we recover, okay? So like I said, week 10 to 11, this is going to have the peaks. 0. You basically have nothing left in the tank. Nothing left in the tank. You have your workouts right here. And week 12, you deload. Same way, 60% of the phases in phase 3. And this is why it's very important that you write these weights down, okay? Now, your muscles are going to grow during recovery, not during the session. That's why we have the 2 days recovery and then 3 days recovery. So it's 2 to 3 days recovery in between all these sessions. So for you to say that you don't have enough time to rest, it's complete bullshit, okay? The deload is not for the weak, okay? It's the final move of a smart program because you need to let that body recover and rest because you have been training hard for the last 11 weeks. This 12 weeks is the most important time, all right? Every week before has built the stimulus. This is the week that you let your body catch it in, okay? This is where it's going to be showing. You're going to be like, what the fuck? How the fuck I got here? But you're going to be like, I followed that plan I found on that YouTube that one guy talked about. So right here, you can take down this benchmark marker. This is where you can track some of the stuff like that. You can just fill these in on day 1 and then reset at the end of each phase. And you kind of know like where you are and like where you need to increase, where you need to, up the volume and everything like that. But this is good stuff. Like, I've done it. I train my clients with it. I've no complaints, man. Like, and a lot of times these people, they give you like, oh, do this, but this is a complete training program, completely free, like broken down. It's not no AI. You just like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I'm telling you, real time. And if you have any questions, you just leave in the comments, whatever. I'll answer. All right. So the training is 1/3 of the equation. All right. There's 3 parts to this. 3 parts, right? Training, nutrition, sleep. Now, nutrition. The main key element here is going to be protein because we want to maximize the amount of protein that we are consuming so we can preserve as much muscle as possible. So we always recommend 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per body weight, moderate calorie deficit, moderate. I didn't say no aggressive nonsense, okay? Moderate calorie deficit, non-negotiable. And then sleep, we want to aim about 7 to 9 hours a night. This is where you're going to freaking recover because during sleep is where you freaking recover, okay? Get your fucking sleep or else you're going to be fucking tired. I don't know what else to tell you. Get sleep or you're going to get tired. Get sleep or get tired, okay? Now, that was all. So, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. And like always, catch you guys in the next one. Ciao.